So you're thinking about moving to Toronto. Let me save you some time, maybe some stress. Toronto is a really big, busy city. It's diverse. There's a ton of neighborhoods that all have different feels to them. So whether you're moving from overseas, whether you're moving from across Canada, whether you're moving even from a few towns over, it can feel very overwhelming. So in this video, I want to break down 5 things that I wish every client knew before moving to Toronto, because when you have an understanding of these things that I'm going to share with you, finding the place that's right for you in Toronto gets a whole lot easier. So the first thing is Toronto isn't just a city, it's kind of like a city of cities. Now, I don't want to make a direct comparison to New York. People sometimes refer to Toronto as maybe being a little bit of a baby New York. We probably all know that New York has 5 boroughs. Well, Toronto used to have 6 boroughs. The city amalgamated in 1998, but we still very often refer to those individual boroughs that used to be their own cities before that amalgamation happened. Those 6 boroughs, showing on a map here. So we have Scarborough over in the east, and then East York, which is maybe just not as far east as Scarborough. We have Old Toronto, which is kind of like the center, the core of the city. We had York, which is the smallest of the boroughs or smallest of the former cities. Above that was North York. So yes, there is an East York, a North York, and a York. And then there was also Etobicoke, which is on the west. And you'll look at that and probably wonder how the heck to pronounce it. It is Etobicoke. You don't say the K. Anyway, those are the 6 boroughs and the cities, if you will. And then in those boroughs, or within those kind of former cities, you've got tons of individual neighborhoods. So those are those 6 kind of former cities that now make up the total city of Toronto. And within those boroughs, we have kind of general areas that we refer to like Midtown, downtown, North Toronto, just as examples. And we still often refer to kind of East York as a general area kind of east of the DVP. DVP is the Don Valley Parkway. It's a highway that kind of runs through the valley on the east side of the city. Even within those general areas that we refer to, we've got tons of neighborhoods, and each of them have their own feel and they have their own characteristics. So let's say that you're looking for energy and nightlife and walkability, for example. Maybe you're a young professional, then you want to be here, probably King West. So, it runs between Spadina here. Let me tap that. So it runs between Spadina all the way over to Bathurst. So that strip of King West is really great. There's also another section kind of over in the middle of the city, which offers very similar, like different feel, probably a different demographic, but still, again, very trendy, very walkable, lots going on as far as bars and kind of stuff to go on. And that's Yorkville. And that's kind of right here around Bay and Bloor, approximately. So lots of shopping, very trendy, very upscale. So let's say that you are a young family and you are looking for, or a growing family, and you're looking for a little bit quieter, great schools, those kinds of things, then you're probably going to be in, or probably want to be in, something like Midtown. So you can see Davisville Village is right here. That's pretty close to Yonge and Eglinton. Kind of Yonge and Davisville would be the biggest intersection. You could also be just a little bit to the east and be over in Leaside, which is kind of this whole area right here, sorry, including up here as well. There's a North Leaside and a South Leaside. You could also be, if you wanted to be on the west side of the city, High Park is another neighborhood that is fantastic for kind of family-friendly areas. So there's all kinds of different neighborhoods. They all have different feels. It really depends on what it is that you're looking for. So what kind of feel are you looking for? I'd love it if you comment below. I could make a video about your top contenders. So the second thing I want you to know is that you need to be prepared for some sticker shock. Toronto is very expensive, even for renting, by the way, not just purchasing. So your average 1-bedroom rental, let's say downtown, probably is going to run you $2,300 on average. Your typical semi-detached property in Midtown Toronto, just as an example, is going to run you at least $1.5 million. Now, the good news is that there are some deals to be had, and I'm going to use the word deals, with air quotes, because a deal in an expensive city can still be a lot of money, but there are parts of the city that can provide good value for what you would typically pay in a big city like Toronto. So, for example, on the west side, we've got Mimico, which is a portion of Etobicoke. you can find some good deals in that area. You're close to the lake, decent transit access as far as being close to the GO station and being able to get downtown. So there's some perks there. Briar Hill, Belgravia is another area that's up near Eglinton and the Allen. You have great access to the less busy side of the subway line. So you can get downtown very easily. You can get homes for a decent price in that area as well. Birchcliff is another area in the east side over in Scarborough that can provide great value. Again, it's somewhat close to the lake. You get that kind of like lakeside feeling to a degree. The Stockyards is an area that is kind of St. Clair and Caledonia. It would be an area that can provide good access to some amenities. There's a Walmart, there's a Canadian Tire, there's lots of grocery shopping. There's like an outdoor kind of shopping plaza. So there's good walkability in that area as well, and home prices are typically undervalued in my opinion over there. Clearly, Birchmount is another area that's on the east side, and even though it feels pretty far outside of the core, you can have decent access via transit. Again, GO station and getting to the subway as well. Lots of cute bungalows in that area that you can find for a reasonable price, again, with respect to the rest of the city. The third thing I want you to know is that transit in Toronto is great until it's not. There are large gaps in subway coverage. We don't have many subway lines, and you could easily find yourself in a part of the city where you don't have access to the subway at all. There are plenty of streetcars, but the problem is that they can be quite slow because they are surface level and they're subject to traffic. There are a few streetcar dedicated lanes. For example, St. Clair has a lane in the middle of the road that is just dedicated to the streetcar, so it moves along a little more quickly. There are buses as well, but again, traffic, surface area travel. So even though they're frequent and there's plenty of them, it's still going to take you a while to kind of get around. Generally speaking, you're going to deal with delays, construction, detours, and aging infrastructure that causes the subway to be closed on a lot of typically weekends in order for them to do track improvement and repairs and all that kind of stuff. So it can be a frustrating experience for people. And for commuters, Monday to Friday, sometimes the subway goes down for one reason or another, and it can put a huge wrench in people's ability to get to work on time. Generally speaking, the better your access to transit is, the higher the prices for the homes are. So just keep that in mind when you're starting your search. The fourth thing I want to share with you is that the weather here is no joke, depending on where you're coming from. Now, bear in mind, it's not like Winnipeg, for example, if you even know what or where Winnipeg is. Our winters aren't necessarily brutal, but they can be for the uninitiated, if you will. My experience living in places outside of Toronto is that Toronto's winter isn't nearly as harsh as it can be fairly close by. I grew up in Oshawa. I went to school in Guelph and Peterborough. I lived in Barrie for a number of years. The snow in that kind of areas that ring around Toronto can be really big, and the temperatures can get pretty cold, but Toronto can still experience some pretty harsh winter weather. And this past winter specifically, we had a couple of days where we got tons of snow in a very short period of time, and it totally messed with the driving around the city and even just your ability to park, because there was nowhere to put the snow. And so people's spots on the streets were basically gone, and it was very difficult to find parking. That can be a thing that you can run into if we have a particularly bad winter. Now, what I will say is that the weather can also be fantastic here. We have very hot, humid summers. That leads to a very lively patio season once the weather gets nice. When we come out of winter, the city kind of feels alive. Certainly in the warm spring months, which we're currently experiencing as we're filming this, we can get a really kind of energetic feeling once the sun and once the nice weather comes around. So there's plenty of benefits as well. And I'll also say that in the fall, the Don Valley and High Park are really beautiful with the changing leaves. I lived overseas for a couple of years, a long time ago, and one thing that I really missed was seasonality. So you can get great weather as well here in Toronto. The last thing I want to share with you is that the culture and events here in Toronto are next level. Toronto is an incredibly diverse, multicultural city. The events that we have and the food scene in the city is just incredibly amazing. We've got Caravana, we've got the Polish Festival and Roncesvalles. We've got areas of the city that kind of center and have an identity around certain kind of cultural backgrounds like Little Italy and Greektown. The food scene, again, is just amazing, and we're able to kind of share our cultural differences centered around oftentimes food. It can just lead to a really kind of great energy in the city when those events are happening, and your ability to find any kind of cuisine that you want very easy. The other thing I'll say is, as a big sports fan, when the sports teams in Toronto are doing really well, there's an energy and a buzz that is palpable. You can feel it. And everybody is super excited about, what's going to happen. 2019, Toronto Raptors won the NBA championship. Right now, as we're filming, the Leafs are doing relatively well in a playoff run in hockey. There's an energy that is tough to beat, and you don't get that same kind of like buzz if you were living even just a half hour or an hour outside of the city. All of these events and cultural areas, they're not all just downtown. You can find them in other parts of Toronto, but you just need to know where to look. So if you're thinking about moving to Toronto, I would love to be of assistance. You can find a link in the description below where you can book a consultation with me, no strings attached, just a friendly conversation. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more insight on Toronto, and I'd love to hear you comment below what your biggest moving concern is. I'll make sure that I personally reply to your comment. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.